Welcome to a new episode of Ramblings from Two Meddling Kids. Ugh, that does not seem right. I am your host, Mike. It doesn't at all. So unnatural. I am your host, Mike Cunningham, with my guest host.
Oh, Shae Rudolph. Hello, hello. Back again.
And we are the Meddling Kids. If you notice, Ed is not here. Half of the team isn't here. He is on vacation in Aruba, and we're having to record this again because we had audio issues with the first recording.
Yeah,
So
blame me. It's my fault.
we're doing our best, but that's cool. We're still gonna get an episode out to you. So, for those who haven't, for those for those who are here for the first time, welcome. For those who are returning, thank you for coming back. This week we're doing Thanksgiving, 2023 horror movie by Eli Roth that came out this year. So for the first like 5 to 10 minutes, we won't spoil anything. No big spoilers. It's more about our opinions on the movie and kind of background information. So like if you haven't seen the movie, that's a perfect time to pay attention. And then past that, we will get into the plot of the movie. So if you don't want anything spoiled, you can hop off and then come back once you've seen the movie, or just listen through. Maybe you don't like horror like me, so you need somebody to walk you through a horror movie. So yeah, I guess it'll be a little bit different today, but that's fine. We adapt. So yeah, we're gonna get into our 5-star reviews. So Shae, you want to start us off?
Yeah, so since we've already done this, we've already talked through this, but I'm gonna give it a 2.5. And as we talk through it, it may go up because I know last time, I don't want to spoil it, but I was at a 2.5 and then I went up to a 3 by the end of it, and then I slept on it again and I went back down to a 2.5. So that's where I'm at for now. I think I'm picky about my horror comedies. So if it's not a scary movie, if it's not being done effectively, I kind of struggle with them. This was fine. I'm a little weird about Eli Roth, so I kind of went into it expecting one thing and then got something else. Not that I was disappointed by that, but yeah, we'll get into it. So I'm going to give it a 2.5, and we'll see if it's a little higher by the end of it after we talk about it.
Okay. All right. So Shae gave it a 2.5. We'll see where she goes from there. I'm going to give it a 2. And once again, take my rating with a grain of salt. I do not like horror. Like I did this strictly for the podcast. But yeah, so I think I agree. I went in like watching the trailers, and maybe I don't know if I should stop watching trailers. I don't. Anyway, but
You should
watching the
stop
trailer,
watching
I
horror
expected
trailers.
Okay.
Because I feel like I'll watch like a regular a regular trailer because like I just watched Napoleon that's coming out with Joaquin Phoenix, and nothing's ever gonna be it's not gonna be spoiled to like a large degree. But I've noticed with horror trailers, they put the best scenes in the trailer. So then when you get to the theater, you're like, you already know what's happening. So I think horror trailers, just leave them alone.
I think that's the same thing with comedies too. Often you get all the best jokes or whatever in the trailer, and then they don't really hit the same once you're actually watching the movie.
Right, I agree.
But yeah, so I don't necessarily like horror. So like I said, take my rating with a grain of salt. But watching this trailer, I saw something very different. I didn't see a comedy, but I think since I don't like horror, I'm never going in with the outside of like you said, scary movie. There's maybe a few like a haunted house or whatever. That's mainly the Wayans brothers, but normally I don't go into a horror thinking it could be also a comedy, because I feel like for me, I'm already on edge. I'm on the fence because I don't, I'm terrified going in that I can't see anything outside of horror. But yeah, watching this trailer, I thought it was going to be something more supernatural. Like they pushed the whole fact that it's in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and so like obviously for some reason, as somebody that likes loves movies and likes storytelling, I assumed that setting was going to be very crucial to the plot of the movie and as to the why this was happening. But watching the movie, it's not so much really important, right? I think it's just a name drop for whatever reason, but it really doesn't have any true effect on the film. This could have been wherever the fuck Scream was set in, or fucking bumfuck New Jersey. Like it didn't really matter the setting. But yeah, so I went in thinking something different, which is fine, you know. But and then yeah, like you were saying, I think for me it didn't. I think the opening scene was interesting. I think that was the kind of the best part. Some of the kills, like I guess, like we said, I think the first kill was like the most creative or whatever, and then like they kind of, to me, it died down. But I didn't see the trailer, so like that. But anyway, so I didn't see all of the original trailer. But
Hmm.
so yeah, I think what was I saying? I don't know. It wasn't as gory as I thought it was going to be, which I don't. For some reason, as somebody who doesn't like horror, that seems like a fail in my book. I can't explain it. It's super weird. But
And
I think it had effective jump scares. It subverted expectations fairly well, which I did enjoy. Like there was, I mean, once again, because all the horror movie tropes have been done, you expect something and then you get their expectations subverted. Like that's the thing. But I think it did it fairly well to like turn you on your head past what you were expecting. So I did enjoy that part of it. But like I said, as far as a horror movie directed by this director. It was kind of light. It seemed more like he was trying to make something more mainstream, and kind of tame or dumb down like a lot of the things that have made him, you know, either popular or hated, you know, depending on who you ask. So yeah,
right.
just two. I think it's something that possibly people could revisit, but I don't really see it happening.
Are you,
But yeah, that's just my opinion.
yeah, are you familiar with Eli Roth as a director?
Just so like yeah, I'm familiar with Hostel because that film terrified me in high school. Sorry, traumatized me in high school. And The Green Inferno, I believe. Cabin Fever was I was a little bit later to that one. Somehow I saw Hostel before Cabin Fever. Um, but yeah, so like I'm like I said, I know I've seen this man's work by accident and hated every single time I've seen his work.
Right,
Um,
right.
it's just because, like I said, I'm not big on gratuitous gore. Like that's just not my thing. Like
Hmm.
so I usually stay away from like your Saw movies, even like the anything Rob Zombie does because that man needs to be locked up. Yeah, it's just not my thing. So, but yes,
Yeah,
I am familiar with his filmography.
yeah, and that's what I was kind of getting at too, because I went into this thinking, "Oh, this is gonna be a gore fest," and I hate to sound like I'm disappointed because 'cause I'm not.
Mhm.
I'm like you, I'm not a big fan of gratuitous gore. Like, I don't like, like, those human centipede movies. It's just like, "Okay, what's the point of this?" But,
Yeah,
if you know Eli Roth, that's what he does. You're expecting a lot of blood and a lot of gore, and I mean, he's gotten a lot of praise for this, so I think it worked in his favor. But I think I wasn't disappointed. I just was expecting something different. So I wish I would have had time to rewatch it, which I should have because I dropped the ball on our first recording. But I think if I had time to rewatch it, I might have felt a little differently about it. But
okay. Like I said, I didn't hate it, right? I mean, obviously we go through our ratings all the time, so like two doesn't mean terrible, but like also
yeah,
my two for a horror movie, it does not matter in the slightest. Please believe me on that.
yeah,
But yeah, so yeah, I think it like there was fun parts. I just think you could tell either it was cut to death or like he wasn't allowed to like to really spread his wings when it came to some of the things he wanted to do in this film.
right, right.
It very much seemed like a Disney Channel Eli Roth in a way somehow.
Should we give Ed's rating even though he's not here? Because he did give us his rating. I think it was
Yeah,
3.5.
we can. Yes, yeah. But I think, like I said, I think it's, and I think both of you talked about this in last time. It was just like how you saw the opening scene, so you knew what the movie was going to be, right? Not to take it seriously and things like that. So that's why I think both of you had a little bit more fun with it, even though obviously you had your grievances with or whatever. But you had at least Ed had a lot more fun with it because he knew going in it wasn't going to be serious or
Right.
whatever. That's like when I went to see like Bottoms or whatever. Like when you see those opening scenes, and it was like, okay, this is what this movie is. I'll take it as that, right? And I think that's fine once you frame your film and its tone, the audience knows how to move from there. So I think, like I said, for me, like Ed liked it, like you said. Ed, I think, gave it a 3.5 straight out the gate because he just had a bunch of fun with it. He saw the comedy coming. He saw the absurdity coming.
Right.
Me, not so much, but it's because of the fact that I don't, unless it's a blatant horror comedy, like you said, scary movie, a haunted mansion, fucking, god damn it, I can't even think of much, much
A
else.
haunted house. Yeah, all the scary movies are like that. Haunted House 1 and 2. Oh, what's Meet the Blacks? But I guess that's not really a. It's not a horror. All
Yeah,
those like Marlon Wayans
but
ones.
still, it was just like, yeah, with all the parody things. I think those are the ones I think of horror comedies because usually they try to parody.
Right.
But so movies like that, when it comes to horror, it's like, okay, I know what this is going in, type of thing. I
Hmm.
know that this is meant to be funny.
Yeah.
And otherwise, it was like I assume horror is there to scare. Like, so that's the mentality I go in with.
Right. I feel like you're not alone though, because I remember in my theater, I went by myself, but I noticed there was, I think people were kind of like looking around to see what was happening during that opening scene. Like they're like looking around, like, am I supposed to laugh at this? So, and I mean, there was
Yeah.
a couple next to me that during one of the jump scares, like got so scared they dropped their popcorn and soda. So I think there are people like similar to you that went into this thinking this is a horror movie and they still got horror. So,
Mm.
it's just perspective.
Because I think it wasn't haha telling jokes funny. It was the absurdity of the some of the kills and stuff like that. But it was
Right.
just like, I guess I'm just a regular human being that doesn't see the funny in killing. So sue me. What do you?
So,
How can I cash it like I ain't enjoy John Wick? Let me shut up.
John Carver. You call him John
But
Wayne?
no, I said like I didn't enjoy John Wick.
Oh. Okay.
But yeah, so I gave it a 2. Shae gave it a 2.5. Ed gave it a 3.5. I think Shae, like you mentioned, that it may, or is that where you're? Are you settling at a 2.5, or it may go up or down like last time?
Um, I'll settle at 2.5 for now. Let's see where it goes because I think as I talked about it last time, it went up. But then I told you I went to sleep that night and I said, no, this is definitely a 2.5. Don't give it don't feel your pressure, girl. Go with your rating. It's a two, it's a 2.5. So we'll see. Let's talk about it and then we'll see what happens.
Okay. So before we get into the movie, we're gonna, excuse me, get a little background information. So like I said, Thanksgiving came out on November 17th, 2023. The runtime is an hour and 46 minutes. The budget was 15 million. As of today, the box office is 22 million, which is to be expected. Like we know, that horror movies usually do fairly well, regardless of what people feel. Horror movies usually tend to at least make their budgets back. Um, so Rotten Tomatoes is at an 83 for critics, 78 for audience. The genre is horror, mystery, thriller. Directed by Eli Roth, who, like we said earlier, director of Cabin Fever, Hostel, Knock Knock, Death Wish, and Green Inferno. And then a little bit of trivia. This movie is based on a mock trailer that Eli Roth did for the Grindhouse movie with
Hmm.
Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez. Okay, and what we have, the cast, we have Patrick Dempsey as the sheriff, Addison Rae as Gabby, Milo Manhelm as Ryan, Jalen Thomas Brooks as Bobby, Neil Varalik as Jessica, Rick Hoffman as Thomas, Gina Gershon as Amanda, Tim Dillon as Mitch, Karen Cliche, wow, as Kathleen, and Adam McDonald as John Carver. I guess I didn't read that last time. Adam McDonald as the titular John Carver, and then the tagline is, which will forever be hilarious and unnecessary, "There will be no leftovers," which meant something different when I saw the trailer, and then the movie made it. It didn't hit the. It did not hit the same.
No, I guess.
I feel like it was one of those things where like they were wrapping up shooting. It was like, did we say the thing?
Right, right.
And they had to just throw it in.
No one said the thing, guys. No.
Like they're literally at the rap party. The cameras are all. Wait a minute. Did we not say the thing? Oh, come on, guys. Ugh.
Get it
You
together.
had one job. Yeah. But okay, yeah, that's the background information I have.
Mhm.
So I guess we can get into the movie. So yeah, if you haven't seen it and you want to see it, we're gonna get into spoilers. So either hop off or just sit and enjoy. All right, so here we go. So the opening scene of this movie, we have like I guess a first person view of somebody looking at a house, and we get a title card that's not a title card, but like some text that says we're in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Right, and it's like fairly creepy. Like it's just a first person. It's very much like a fucking Halloween.
Yes.
That first person view, and I think you mentioned this last time. It was just like I think because Eli Roth is such a student or a fan of horror, that you do get a lot of homages in this. And
Yeah.
it's just like brief. It's not really hitting you over the head with or anything like that. So, because when even with this, I just noticed that just now. I don't think I mentioned that last time. I just noticed it just now as we were talking about it.
And I'm always offended by when he pays tribute to like these great horror directors because Eli, you are not one of them in the most respectful way possible. And I get it. I get it. If you're a horror fan, you want to pay tribute. But I mean, let's let's talk about what this film is. This is Thanksgiving. I don't know
Mm.
if you can really try to even compare it to John Carpenter's Halloween, but you do you, boo boo.
You do you, boo boo. All right. All right. So we see that this first person view is approaching a house, and you don't know what the intention is. And then the door opens, and we meet the character Mitch, and he's inviting his friend the sheriff into the house. Mitch mentions that the sheriff had just got divorced, and he was kind of like soaking in his sorrows, like really didn't go out after his wife left or whatever. So it was like good to see him, joining his family for a Thanksgiving dinner. We then meet, the rest of the family. So we meet Mitch's wife Amanda. We meet Thomas and Kathleen and Thomas's daughter Jessica. And I think there was other members of Thomas's family, but they really didn't matter for
They
whatever
don't
reason.
matter. Yeah.
And I think also Bobby was there, right? What's her name? Jessica's boyfriend.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so so we meet the family or whatever. We find out that Mitch has to go into work because it's Thanksgiving, and he works at a very, I guess, the equivalent of like a Walmart in their town. And he's the general manager, and he has to go in for the Black Friday sale. And then we talk about we talked about this. It was like he goes, if Thomas needs me to go in, as if Thomas isn't sitting at the fucking table. It was like very it was weird, and it still fucks with me. It was just like, but I'm right here. Who are you talking to? Like, don't do that.
It's almost like when you say something in front of someone so they hear what you're saying. Like, well,
Mhm.
Thomas needs me to go
Yeah.
in. Like he's gonna say, "Oh, it's fine. You can stay." Like,
It was very weird because it was like this is before Thomas's name in the film, so it's just like you met him, but you didn't get his name, and then he said, "Yeah, Thomas needs me to go in," as if he got a call from this man
right.
from somewhere else to go in. Very weird to me, but what are you gonna do? And so Mitch leaves the house shortly after Jessica and Bobby are picked up by their friends to go, hang out. I think go to a party or some shit like that, or maybe the movies. I think she mentioned
Mhm.
uh, during for Thanksgiving night. So shortly after, like we get scenes with what's her name, Jess and Bobby and their friends. You got Evan, Gabby, Yulia, and Scuba, and they're driving around mentioning that they got into a fight earlier with one of the because Scuba and Evan play football. Bobby is in town because he's like they call him Golden Arm. He's like a all-star baseball player in the town. I think he's gone off to college. So he's only in town for the holiday or whatever. So like we get to sit with these characters, and I think this is what kind of threw me off because I didn't expect it to go like the Scream route, where like you're focused on the teens. I guess that is once again it's a a big thing in a lot of horror movies, like your
Right.
Scream franchise, or I Know You Did Last Summer, whatever it is. It's just like focusing on this group of teens being, accosted or followed by, some maniac. But I didn't expect that for this movie for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely kind of biting off of those stereotypical slasher horror tropes. I didn't. It's funny that you said Scream, and I definitely compared it to Scream, but I kept seeing I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Mhm. I
So
think
I
I'm less familiar with that one, so like that's why I went Scream first. But
mm,
yeah,
makes sense. Yeah, yeah,
but so I guess they'd establish it, but like I said, I didn't expect that from this movie because it seemed like since you met the sheriff that's the person you're going to be following, like him trying to protect these people before they get killed.
right.
But yeah, so the teens go to the to Right Mart or whatever because Evan needs a phone. So like he got into a fight and broke his phone, so he needs to go to Right Mart. Right Mart is owned by Jessica's dad, so like she has the way for them to get in while avoiding the Black Friday sale. Because then we also see the crowd outside of Right Mart waiting to get into the store for the sale. And I think this is what you were talking about too. It was just like this idea, like the comedy of it, because it was like the absurdity of these people being wilding the fuck out in the year of our Lord 2023
Yeah.
outside of an actual store, bro.
I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed at the whole thing. And my
Yeah,
thing was these people are outside waiting. I don't know if you noticed, but the terrible Massachusetts accents. They might as well have been saying "park the car, park the car."
yeah. I guess I never know how to take those actions serious anymore because I've always seen it as people doing it in jest. Like so, like
Right.
like what's his fucking Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. I think they did like a commercial and they
Mhm.
would do it with the heavy Boston accent. So now I only hear it when people like exaggerating it to make a joke or some shit like that. So I can never take it actually serious, right? And like
What's that
this one
Samuel
seemed even
Adams?
worse because these were clearly people who weren't from fucking Massachusetts.
Right, right. What's that Samuel Adams commercial that Ed talked about last time? From
Oh,
Boston.
the your cousin from yeah. That's what I'm saying. I've only heard it in jest, so it's like I don't even think it was a real accent.
Right. And I think we
But
said
yeah,
this last time too, but I feel like, come on, Eli, I know you can just get. There has to be actors from Plymouth, Massachusetts. There has to be that you could just get to just do those little lines because they were just so bad.
and like we said earlier, because of the fact that they kind of pushed that it is in Massachusetts, but it didn't really matter to the plot that they were in Massachusetts. It was just like so it could have been anywhere. So like literally like the accents weren't really necessary. Like I said, it would have been different if the plot of this movie was a reaction to what's about to happen in this opening scene.
Hmm.
And it was just like you can't disrespect Plymouth like that because we are the the founding place of Thanksgiving or something. If that's what it was, and it was like some supernatural thing kind of correcting to make things right in Plymouth, fine, that makes all of the sense why it's set
Hmm.
here and stuff like that. But since that's not it, there's just this the setting doesn't make sense. The accents are just egregious. Um, an attack on the ears.
I would have enjoyed the movie more, I think, Laura, if it went that route. Like if it went that route of
Mm.
okay, the Thanksgiving, the history of Thanksgiving, and this is why we're doing this, like or had that like mystical, idea behind it. I would have enjoyed this movie a little bit more, I think. But the fact that it's just
Did you see
Black Friday. Hmm.
mhm. Did you see Krampus?
I did not.
It's like it was a horror. Okay, no, sorry, no, because it was like it's very much what we're talking about, right? So like Krampus is like the opposite of Santa or whatever, and so like it was one of those things where like you need to follow these, it's like Gremlins or some shit like that. You need to follow these instructions for this holiday, or Krampus is gonna come and get you. So like in the same vein, I think this movie could have been you follow these holiday traditions, or else John Carver is coming to get you, type of thing.
I
Like
would
you
like
said, I
that
think it would
more.
have made the movie a lot better. Yeah,
Agreed. Yep. Yep.
yeah.
But we didn't
But
get
anyway,
that.
so
We
yeah,
got
we meet the yeah we did we did. But yeah, so we meet this unruly crowd outside of the Right Mart. And they only two security guards have shown, are shown up for all of these people. Jess and her friends show up, and they go through a back door, a side door, or whatever. But I think some of the people notice that they're in there, especially one of the guys that got into a fight with Evan earlier in the day. And then we also see that Amanda and the sheriff have arrived. Amanda bringing Mitch something to eat because he missed dinner, and then the sheriff just being called in because of the fact that there's a lack of security. So like he's kind of that next line of defense just in case anything happens. And so like as we get this unruly crowd, one of the guy from Hanover High School who got into a fight with Evan notices him inside, and he's like, "Why are they allowed in? We're not. But what's taking so long?" And then Evan kind of taunts the people outside, like because of the fact that he's inside, and this kind of forces the guy from Hanover to snatch a megaphone from Mitch's hand and says like the store is open, so like the crowd starts rushing towards the door. So like Mitch is able to get inside. One of the security guards just runs. He gets out of there, and so you have the crowd kind of pushing up against the glass doors, like trying to get in, but the doors are locked. And so the Evan and everybody inside is like yelling to let them in, because they're going to get hurt because of the glass.
Mm-hmm.
And as the security guard is fumbling with the keys, the glass starts to shatter. It shatters, and like the door falls on him. And once again, I feel so bad because it's a death scene. But it was like the door falls on the security guard. He lands on his stomach. The door's on his back. Obviously, he's getting stepped on a bit as people are charging into the store, and you just see him shaking. And we talked about this last time, but it was like I think there's so many actors or just people in general have practiced death scenes, right, or
Right.
whatever. And it was like to be either overly dramatic or just right. Like thinking like Romeo and Juliet, like when they drink the poison and have to play dead or whatever. But this man's death acting was fucking. It was like once again, I know it's supposed to be sad, like he's being trampled to death, and he was just sitting there like hand shaking. I was like, I don't know what's going on here, bro. I don't know who directed this scene.
What
It's
did you
not it,
say?
chief.
The girl from Dark Knight at the end of Dark Knight Rises. What's her
Yes, yeah.
name?
She was just like she just got tired and went to sleep. Like that was that was her death scene. She didn't say little shit at the end. She was just like.
So-
It was not. It was like it was too funny to be taken serious. And I guess once again, this movie was giving me hints that it was a comedy and the absurdity of it. But because of the fact that I'm waiting for the gore, especially in this scene, I couldn't be I couldn't be disarmed to the comedy or quote unquote of it. But
right.
yeah, so the security guard is getting stepped on or whatever as people rush the building. Some guy gets his throat slit on the glass as he's like being pushed in or whatever. And then you see because they had mentioned earlier, like Mitch goes, "Everybody will get their waffle irons," which I thought was hilarious. And now I'm trying to figure out who the fuck sponsored this movie because that's what a lot of people rush towards immediately to get waffle irons.
Here's my question:
Once again, the year of our Lord 2023.
Are you fighting someone? Are you throwing hands over a waffle iron?
No, not at all. I'm not. Maybe a TV, but or a
Maybe.
PS5. Like make it make sense.
Yeah, I
They
don't
didn't
think
even
I'm
go. They didn't even get into the store. It was like whatever was like at the register. Nobody made it past that foyer of the
They didn't even
store.
look.
I'm in the
Yeah, I
back
don't
stealing
know.
jeans and Tim's, maybe a PS5. I'm all in electronics.
Nah, for real.
Y'all
I just
doing
thought about
the
that.
shopping spree wrong.
They're not even at the electronics. Waffle irons? There's no way waffle irons more than $40. I'm not having it. It's not.
I am smashing some case with PS5s and switches behind it, bro. What you mean?
Nah, for real.
But so we get people fighting basically to the death over waffle iron. The guy that got his throat slit, he grabs the last waffle iron and then dies. And somebody just snatches it from his dead hands shortly afterwards. In the mayhem, we see that like Evan is standing on top of the cash register and he's like just recording all of this.
Mhm.
His girlfriend is like standing underneath him, like kind of pushing people off. You see Scuba protecting his girlfriend. What's his name? Jessica and Bobby. Like Bobby sees that the security guard like is still alive even though he's being trampled. So he goes to try to help him, and somehow gets his arm broken, like the fucking glow stick. It was like super weird. Um, and then also we see that and this is what I was saying, was like I couldn't take any of this as comedy because I saw like deaths coming and I knew it was going to be gruesome or whatever. So it was just like I couldn't lean into this comedy. But like Amanda gets I think she falls on the ground. Is that what it is? And then like she gets her neck broken by like this woman hits her with like a cart or something like
Right.
that. And
Yep.
then her hair gets tangled up in the wheels, and like you see her getting scalped a bit. And this is what I'm saying, talking about the gore, right?
Right.
I assumed it was gonna like that dude that was gonna get like trampled, like where you see a lot of stuff. The guy who got his neck slit was like you would see a lot more. And then even with I guess once again, I'm also might be desensitized to a lot of things. So just like I'm seeing her getting scalped, but it was like I also saw Game of Thrones and Homeboy got his head blown up just by being crushed. Like we seen some shit. Like
Right, 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 right. And that's we're going back
so
to Eli Roth though, that he historically is known for going too far. I mean, I remember that eye scene in Hostel like it was yesterday. Like not going too far per se, but like I think others will perceive it as him going too far. So I'm expecting when she gets scalped for blood to shoot out everywhere,
yeah,
like in Freddy versus Jason. Um, and yeah, I don't know. That's fine. That's fine. You've built this core audience. I think that's this is where I'm going with this. I guess Eli Roth has built this core audience of people with expectations of gratuitous gore and violence, and when you don't do that, I don't know. I don't want to say disappointed because yeah, I don't know. Anyway, keep going. I'm pondering here.
I got you. All right. So yeah. So and also another thing, talking about that, it was like I assumed that it was going to be a massacre, and like because obviously you see the tensions rising in the store, like outside, and then once they get in and people fighting and stuff like that. But you only see three deaths for the most part, and then like what's his name, Bobby getting his arm broken. So, but I expected it to. When you say a massacre, I expect a massacre. You know what I'm saying? Especially knowing this director, and
Hmm.
it all seemed fairly tamed. Like for what we know, three people died. Right, that may have been more casualties. I don't remember. Maybe later on in the news report, maybe they mentioned it. But for
Yeah,
what the audience has seen, it was three deaths, and they called it a massacre. Excuse me, what we doing?
a massacre.
Like words mean things. Like what we doing? But anyway, so Mitch sees that his wife is dead, so he goes and like he's like calling for the cops or whatever. And I think then we just cut to 1 year later, and we have a reporter outside of the Right Mart. We see people protesting because of what happened a year before, and we see that Thomas, who owns Right Mart, um, is doing another sale, and as if like, and Mitch, and he's a former general manager now, he's like been protesting for the past year because he mentions that his wife died. His wife was murdered during the massacre. The security tapes were somehow wiped, even though they were working just fine when he got there that night. And then he's blaming Thomas because of the fact that like he's kind of sweeping this all under the rug. We see that he has been doing some charitable things like um, raising money for like the families affected and things like that. But Thomas wants him to be doing more, or just to be brought to justice somehow. Which I guess I didn't understand, but I don't know how how things work. Was just like I wasn't in it. Like I own the motherfucker. I wasn't in there, firing off or something like that. So I don't see how I'm truly responsible for it. Like what
Right.
happens in my store, but
I feel like,
yeah,
yeah,
then
why are you responsible? 'Cause okay, I guess because he opened up the store on Black Friday, but all stores are doing that. Yeah, I didn't understand that either. Like, yeah, I ain't responsible for that shit. I mean, that shit went down, but I'm
that's
not about.
okay. I
Yeah,
get him. I mean, what is we talked about this with like Talk to Me, and like I'm not people grieving, like they do things that we wouldn't understand, or like maybe they grieve very differently than you would in the same scenario. So maybe that's what it is. He was just like looking to point fingers at somebody, right?
right.
Um, and the rich man. I mean, obviously, the whole eat the rich thing has been going on for a minute now, so it's like they're easy targets.
Hmm.
But yeah, so we see it's a year later. The excuse me, yeah, it's a year later. People are protesting because the Right Mart is having another sale. Um, fucking 365 days after the original massacre. We kind of get a glimpse of what our characters is doing now. We find out that Bobby, after he got his arm broken during the massacre, he kind of ghosted Jessica, went away. So now she's dating Ryan, who we met briefly when Jessica and her friends were outside of the store that night. And
That's
you
real
could tell that he likes
fuckboy.
her. But
I don't know.
yeah,
How do you
yeah,
feel
it was
about that?
weird.
That's real fuckboy
It was
behavior.
yeah. Which
Like
part? Which sorry, what part?
him just okay. So I get it. You're devastated. Your arm was broken, and that was your career. But you're just gonna. I mean, you can just explain that and leave. You don't have to just completely ghost
Oh, yeah,
your
oh, that part. You're talking
girlfriend.
about Bobby. Okay, I thought you were talking about
Yeah.
Ryan, but yeah. Um, no, yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think but it is one of those things like not knowing how to, because I think, like you said, I think part of him blamed her, even though because there was a scene where like he just wanted to, oh, he wanted to stay outside. That's what it was. I think
Oh.
he wanted to stay. He wanted to stay in the car, and she asked him to come in or whatever. So I think maybe that it's part of him blaming her for the whole thing, and then also just I guess not knowing how to. But it's also been a fucking year, right? Like, but I mean, it's also his whole life. I assume he had a scholarship and was possibly making it to the pros or whatever. So it's just like him having lost like one thing he loved and like kind of his ticket to kind of a better life. So I think a lot of that was like just fueling him not wanting to see her or whatever.
Yeah. All right,
Possibly.
Bobby. You
But yeah, I mean,
get
I do agree with you though.
yeah.
I thought you were talking about Ryan because it was just like even like Bobby's there and he's just like clearly hitting on this woman who has a boyfriend just because of the fact that since her boyfriend is in college and just visiting like because I think Ryan's roommate mentioned it, it was just like, well, he's only here for briefly or whatever. So like I'm here for her when he's not. And it was like, all right, chill, bro. What the fuck you doing?
Yeah. Nah, they both fuck boys. Both of
Jessica could not pick a man. See
them.
that. But yeah, so yeah, as we see the current state, like yeah, so now Jessica, like she was ghosted by Bobby, so Ryan stepped in, so now they're dating. We see that there's a new deputy in town to kind of and like they constantly mention that there's going to be more security at this year's sale, and then we see that the video that Evan had took, even though he lied. He says he didn't expect to go viral. He didn't mean to put it up, but like it's been reposted and like and especially now that the 1 year anniversary is here, so like they're dealing with that kind of the kind of like them another reminder of what happened, and then we see that a new Instagram account has opened up under the name of John Carver, who was big in Plymouth, Massachusetts, because I think he was the first mayor, right, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the John Carver Instagram account, and then he just took a picture of a table, Thanksgiving table, or whatever, and he tagged Jessica and her friends, and like they're confused as to why or whatever, and then we meet up with the waitress at the diner, who was I think Ed said that she was the one that kind of killed Amanda. Was that it?
Oh, I don't remember. Yeah, it was. Was she the one pushing the shopping cart?
I know she was involved. Like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. She was pushing the shopping cart.
okay, yeah. So like, she was wilding the fuck out outside of the Right Mart before people stormed in, just cursing everybody the fuck out. And then
Mm.
we see her in
Stopping
Evan's
brawling.
video, like she was giving him the finger. Yeah, she was very active during the riot, and so she works at I guess a popular diner in the town, and then she she's closing up the diner that night, and she was like passing out John Carver masks like for the kids and everybody in town earlier in the day. And as she's like cutting the lights off, she noticed that one more is on the counter, so she goes to grab it, and then she gets attacked by a man wearing a John Carver mask. He has like the pilgrim hat on, all black, and then like the John Carver mask.
This is
And
the
so
first
he takes her.
time.
And it was
This is the first time we see like the full costume, correct?
yeah. Oh yeah.
What
So
did
yeah,
you
briefly. we see. Say it again.
No, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say briefly, we see a man sitting with his back to us in all black. He's at the like at a computer or something like I guess reviewing footage from Evan's viral video, and then we see a picture of the waitress and she's circled, and so then we go to the rest like to the diner. She gets attacked by a man wearing all black pilgrim hat and a John Carver mask. I thought it was like really cool, like the this outfit, right?
I did too.
Um,
I really liked it. I think it's simple, it's clean, it gives you that
mm,
90s, 2000s like slasher feel. I yeah, the my only like qualms with it would probably be the mask. It definitely gave me Whopper, 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 like the
yeah,
mask
yeah,
from
like the Burger King,
BK,
yeah.
like the BK mask. But
Hmm.
yeah, other than that, I thought it was clean. I was impressed with that one.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah, I could see that being like a. Even though, did you see? This is why I got confused with this one too. It was I guess, an anthology series or something, but one of the episodes was called Pilgrim, and it was something very similar to this. The guy had on kind of the same outfit in a
Hmm.
way.
What was this
Um,
from?
I'll send it to you. It was like it's God damn it, it's a anthology series, a horror anthology series, and like about the Thanksgiving episode was called Pilgrim. And so the guy, I'll send it to you, but the guy had on kind of the same exact thing. But I
Oh,
think he had on like the little white cuffs that usually come with it.
Creep Show. From Creep Show?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, really, yeah. But anyway, so John Carver, sorry, attacks the waitress. He and this was I thought it was a very like innovative how he was like moving with this kill. So like he grabs her, he dumps her head in the sink because it's still full of water, and then he
Mhm.
opens a walk-in freezer and he like pushes her face onto the freezer because now that it's wet, her face gets kind of her face and hand actually get frozen to the door, and then he walks into the freezer, and this is like he just you can tell this is well planned. Like he walks into the freezer and he grabbed the axe that was just placed in there, and he goes to swing it at her head, and now she's like fighting to like pull her face away from the door, and you see like the skin separating from both her hand and her face,
Mhm.
and then like right as he's about to swing at her, it's like she's able to escape, and then she runs into like a security office, and like she's trying to
Unlock
make a
your
call
phone.
on her phone. Yeah, yeah, she's trying to unlock her phone, but like her face is bloody, so it's the Face ID is not working, and then she can't unlock it because her hand is all bloody, so like she can't use the phone. And then she looks at the security, I guess the security footage, and she sees that he's not there anymore. And this is what, and we talked about this before. It was just like this is why horror movies and people in horror movies piss me off because they're constantly doing something that doesn't make sense. And like I said, I guess I will relent to the fact that in a scenario like that, you don't know how you would act, right? It's very much fight or flight, or whatever. So
I'm gonna challenge that because I know what I'm not gonna do. I'm not gonna stop in the parking lot and just fumble for my keys. Like, I'm gonna sprint.
first of all, my keys would have been out when I left the door.
I'm Forrest Gump. I'm running so fast to my car and searching for my keys as I'm running. Like they just and I you
Hmm.
said this the last time I think we did an episode and I was kind of arguing with you about it, but it's so true, Michael. Like they make I think good horror movies nowadays make smart characters so that way I'm not like yelling at the screen. I get that was a fun 90s thing we did where it's like,
Hmm.
bitch, keep running. But now it's like make smarter decisions. If I'm being chased by John Carver, I'm not sitting there. I'm just gonna stop. She just stops in the parking lot and looks for her keys
Yeah,
like it's a normal day. So yeah, that was annoying, but you have to expect that with these slashers these days.
yeah, but yeah. So so she leaves the security office because she sees that she doesn't see anybody on the screen, so she assumed that he's gone.
Mhm.
Which mistake number one and two. I am dying in the security. The only way I'm coming out is if somebody comes to get me. Like, there's no way I'm leaving the office. But that's just your boy. Like, but
She's like, oh, I don't see anyone. Coast is clear.
Oh god, that's once again. But this is like this dumb shit pisses me off. So anyway, so she leaves the security office, leaves the restaurant, and she's walking to her car, fumbling in her purse for her keys. She can't find them. We see somebody in her car actually turns on the lights, and so she starts running towards a dumpster or whatever. And like she goes to climb in, the car hits the hits the dumpster or whatever, and you just see her legs fall out of the dumpster. Science, not sciencing, but that's fine. What what are you gonna do?
And then full blown like sausages hanging from her, like not the best guts we've ever
Yeah,
seen, but it's still Eli Roth. So
yeah. So the next day, we see that the bottom half of her body is has been hung outside of the Right Mart sign, right next to the sign that says 50% off. Um, and so obviously the cops and the sheriff are there, like retrieving the body. They retrieve the I think they noticed that the body was like taken from outside of the restaurant, but they can't find the top half.
Mhm.
And then at the same time, we get the Jessica and her friends get tagged in another photo, and it's a photo of the bottom half of the body hung outside the Right Mart. And then they go back to the first photo, and they notice that when they zoom in, there are name cards with all their names on it, kind of suggesting that they're next, or they're the kind of the target for all of this. And I think this
What
is
are
where
you
we get a
doing in
short
that
scene where
situation?
like
Just curious. What are you doing? Because I know what I'm doing, but as a
in
fellow Black African American,
I feel like it's the movie tropes they make so often in Hollywood. They make parents dumb as hell and the cops incompetent, right? I watched ET recently, and it was just like I'm getting tired of kids acting like parents couldn't solve this motherfucker in 30 minutes. Like I don't understand. Like what are we doing? And that's why you got these precocious ass children acting like they better than parents because parents wouldn't understand that an alien came. Fuck you mean?
right?
You don't take that thirsty alien to your mama. But so the same thing with the cops. I was like, no, I'm I don't know. I'm going to the I'm like I'm getting them involved. Like I don't because I don't want to be by myself. It's very weird that they knew that this whole movie, Jessica and her friends knew that they were being targeted, and they were still out and about running these streets. Like I don't understand.
Running
Like
these
take some type
streets,
of precaution.
yeah, something. I think
At least,
either
yeah. Sorry, go
I'm
ahead.
not gonna be like trying to be the mystery machine and trying to solve the case. Like, oh, we're 17-year-olds and Chase is on the case. Let's figure. Like, I'm out. Hey, you know what, guys? I'm gonna probably go to Mexico for a week or two until Thanksgiving's over. I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. Meanwhile, they're running around the school by themselves. Like they're just I don't know. I feel like I just not that's not the route I would have taken. I probably would have just
Yeah.
I'm gonna head the fuck out. I got family, in Salem. I'm gonna go with my family in Salem.
Mhm.
So I don't know.
Yeah. But I think it's one of those things where like this is what's frustrating about some storytelling. It was like oftentimes things happen in a movie because a movie has to move, or the plot has to move on, not because it makes sense in the storytelling aspect. But it was just like if we made sense of this movie would be 15 minutes. Like so,
Exactly.
that's why dumb shit just has to persist.
Right.
So
No,
yeah, I
but
was
I
like,
think, and that's my frustration. I feel like you finally convinced me of this. I know we used to go back and forth about horror for a while, but because I've seen so many good, well constructed horror movies that have characters that make smart decisions. I just watched one. For any of your listeners that are interested, it's Hell House, Hell House Origins, and the characters. I remember I was saying as I'm watching the movie, I would do this, and they do the exact thing that I would do, and still end up
mm,
in predicaments. And I'm like, this is why this movie's so good, because you leave, you get in your car, you pack your stuff, and it still happens. So I think more movies need to go that route. Stop making these dumb characters. We're
yeah,
past that. It's 2023, baby. So
yeah, because I think stupidity is endearing until it's not. It was like, bro, you can't be this dumb. Like, come on. Like, I'm not the smartest man in every room, but I'm not that dumb. Like, like it's literally the only way for this to work is for these people to be dumb. That's the only way for any, and it was just, it's too frustrating after a while.
Right.
But yeah, so as we jump back, yeah, so the waitress is killed. The kids get tagged in another photo. They recognize that their names are placed at the table. So they're like, holy shit, he's coming. Like, this person's coming for us. And then we see the next we get a scene of John Carver again, and he's in his wherever he is, wherever his like headquarters is, and he's at the computer game. You see the wall, and there's another picture from, I think, outside of the security footage or whatever, but it's a picture of the security guard who ran away, and it's just circled and it says coward. And then so we go to his house, and he's like packing up, leaving for like the Dominican Republic or something like that. He just doesn't want to be there for the holiday. And so he's talking to his cat, letting him know that is going to be gone for a bit. He gets a call from his friend, saying that, oh, I'm outside. So he's like, all right, perfect. And so like we see him when he first comes into the living room as he's packing up his bag. He places his passport on like a table, a side table, and then he goes to the window because of the guys on the phone, and then he turns back and his passport is gone. So like he's checking his pockets, like checking his shirt. He's trying to figure out what the fuck happened to this passport. And it was like, this is one thing that pissed me off, because it was like, if this movie was supernatural, it would make sense. But this is a small ass 1-bedroom apartment. Our killer is known to be wearing combat boots. Okay, you're not tiptoeing in combat boots. So it's just like, a lot of the shit that was happening in this movie doesn't make sense if it's just a regular man doing it.
Right. He
And
has
horror does
toes
this
on.
all the time. It's always, yeah. It was just like, this doesn't make sense, because it was like, this is the size of my apartment. Ain't nobody sneaking up on me in my apartment. Fuck you mean?
Right.
It's not that damn big. But yeah, so anyway, yeah, his passport is missing, so he goes to search for it, and then he thinks that somebody's in the apartment, so he starts like yelling, saying that I'm a security guard. I kill people every day. And I was just like, all right, calm it down, security guard. Like,
Yeah. Okay. The fuck.
Well, top flight security in the world, my ass. Anyway, so fucking, he's like screaming in the house, like, I'm a security guard. Like, just show yourself or whatever. And I think you were talking about this, and last time it was like the subversion of expectations, where just like he goes to one place, and John Carver's not there, but he ends up getting stabbed in the stomach with like a turkey carver.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes to like, I guess, kind of run away or something like that, and like John Carver just takes like a piano wire and just cuts his head off. And it was like, Jesus fucking, all right. Interesting kill, but like I was saying earlier, it seemed a little bit more tamed. Like I enjoyed the first kill, even though there was stupidity involved. I enjoyed it because it seemed innovative. This one, not so much, kind of a little bit lazier. But I mean, the gore was there.
Yes. And I feel like something I observed, I'm not quite there yet, but with there's that cat scene. So there's a cat there. Usually Eli Roth would have killed that cat. I think he's starting to kind of understand, as it's 2023 now. People don't like when you kill the cats. They don't like when you kill the dog. That alone will get you a lower rating on Rotten Tomatoes or in IMDb. But no, I remember as soon as that happened, I think he's trying to be a little more tame. Going back to what you're saying about the gore, you expected a little bit more gore. He's trying to dial it back a little bit, and I don't know what the current Rotten Tomatoes score is, but it seemed to have worked in his favor.
Yeah, like we said, the critic score is at 83, the audience is at 78. So
right now, currently,
I think, like you were saying, this might be right now. I checked it right before we started recording.
Okay. Well, do you remember what it was last week?
So yeah, the only thing I had, it was like 83 or something like that for critics. There was no audience score. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's still pretty high for Eli Roth, as he gets.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I think you said it might be the one that's highest.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now we have 2 people dead that were kind of involved with the Black Friday massacre from the year before. Also, something that I didn't mention was the fact that Jessica has to meet with her dad and her stepmom, who she feels some type of way about, at the John Carver house in Plymouth or whatever. They're doing some promo shots or some shit like that. And when they get to the house, they notice that it's been kind of trashed, and then Thomas mentions that the axe that was on the wall is missing, and then this scene happened right before the waitress was killed. I forgot to mention that, but yeah. So now we have two people killed. Um, we get another Instagram post, and now because he took the security guard's head, and so like he places it on the Thanksgiving table or whatever, and then he takes a picture of the head and then the top half of the waitress's body, and he tags the kids in it. And I'm just sitting here like, is Instagram not on its job? Like, like I get he made it decorative or whatever. Like we're like, Jesus Christ, like you got dead bodies displayed.
And they're like, that looks fine. Not taking a post down, nothing.
Jesus Christ. But yeah, so now we get the kids being well first like they're in a restaurant, like in the diner. Actually, damn it, no, this is not first because the waitress is still alive. But when they were in the diner, they did notice that Jessica noticed Bobby had kind of returned, and so but he didn't say anything. And then now they get interrogated by the sheriff because of the fact that obviously they're being tagged in these photos, so like trying to figure out as to why. And so the sheriff mentions, anything that you can tell me will help. And so Jessica leaves, and Bobby's waiting for her outside, and they haven't spoken in a year. And like, so he goes to apologize. Like, she's even though she's dating Ryan, she still does have some sentiment for him. Like, it's not this animosity when she sees him, because I guess she kind of wants to know, why, why he left. And so they talk for a bit. He mentions that like he just kind of blamed her for his arm breaking, and like he's in physical therapy now, and like hopefully he'll be able to get back to where he was. And then she mentions that the night of the massacre, her stepmother, fearing lawsuits and stuff like that, had wiped all the security tapes, but the backups were on her dad's computer or whatever, and they only Jesus Christ, they only lasted for a year, and it was
How
I was
convenient
just like,
is
why are we
that?
giving this?
In the words of Cardi B, how convenient is that?
It was like Ed mentioned this earlier. It was like, why do we need a clock? Like, what are we doing here? But yeah, so fucking they go to they go to her house, uh, and Bobby waits outside while she's in her dad's office, like reviewing the security footage. And right as she's printing stuff out, right as she's about to get caught, her dad comes in and like he said, it doesn't matter, like whatever you're doing, I don't really care. But and they do have a heart to heart moment where he mentions the fact that after her mother had passed, which I think was like 2 years prior or something like that, it's fairly recent. Um, that he kind of leaned into work and just as a distraction, and then he met his new wife or whatever, and that was another distraction. But it was like because he was leaning into all these things, he kind of neglected his daughter, and he like kind of apologized for that. And so they have a nice little moment between them. She gives him a hug and like says thank you for admitting that. And then as they're having this moment, Ryan is driving past the house and he notices Bobby's car, and so he feels some type of way that Bobby's back in town and he's at Jessica's house. And we talked about this before. It was just like slashers, especially in small towns like this, they're constantly trying to throw in, oh, this might be the killer, or this might be the killer. Here's a little scenes and like maybe mentions or some shit like that that like hints at several people possibly being the culprit of these
Yeah,
murders or whatever. So I think
they want
they
to
try to
create
do it here. It
a
just really didn't work.
yeah, they want to create a red herring. There's always that red herring, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, which one is what? And usually, like for example, slash Scream, I'm sitting there trying to figure out who the killer is because I want to be right. I did not care. I was sitting there like, I'm pretty sure I know who it is, and I don't really care who it is. And I think that was what
Hmm.
I felt was different with this slasher and the other slashers. I just didn't overly give a shit who the killer was going to be. It can
Hmm.
only be so many people with the build one. It can't be the fat
Yeah.
security guard. We
Hmm.
know that. It can't be a woman. We know that because of the build. So yeah, I get
Yeah.
the red herring thing and what they're trying to do. It just wasn't effective to me.
Yeah. But yeah, so now she takes that evidence to the sheriff along with Bobby, and outside of like obviously he because there was no security footage prior, so like this is really helping his investigation. And he says that to her, and she also mentioned she brings up a picture of Ryan and his roommate kind of having an exchange with the security guard that passed away. And what's it talking about more of this red herring because it's showing that Ryan had a relationship with one of the people that died, right? So, because like you said, it's at this point, it's finding out people's motivations, or like you're giving us possible suspects. So, like now, what's their motivations? And if Ryan has a relationship with somebody who died, that gives him, that shines a light on him as possibly being the murderer. What else happens? Goes through. Oh, so then we jump to after this. Sorry, the sheriff gets all this information. We jump to the football player from the night of the massacre. Now we talked about it. We assume he's graduated, but he's like working as a trainer at the school, possibly a coach or something like that.
Yeah.
And so he's in the I guess the gym or something like that with the some other athletes, like kind of just motivating them. And then he gets called by one of the cheerleaders who was his girlfriend from that night as well. And like so she leads him away. They go to the gym where a trampoline is set up, and like she just tells him to sit on the stage while she does a little show for him. And obviously, since they're isolated, something is going to happen. And so like so she starts jumping on the trampoline. As she's jumping, I think with her back to him, John Carver comes and just like literally breaks his neck, turns his head 180.
Then his
Which,
whole
like I
fucking
was saying
cat back
before, I think
flew.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It was like to me, some of these they started out with a certain level of intensity, and then they kind of get a little bit lazier to me.
Hmm.
Even though obviously you guys felt some type of way about how like he disposed of the cheerleader,
Yeah.
because after I'll go ahead.
Well, so I don't know if you said you saw the trailer. So this scene was actually, I don't know if it's because of production or if, just in post they decided to take it out because it was just too graphic. But in the trailer, when she's jumping up and down, she she actually gets penetrated with a knife, and that's her death. They don't do that
Hmm.
in the theatrical version, which I'm kind of thankful for.
Right.
I feel like some of that stuff that's just really extreme, and it's just with this. There's always this element of violence against women with these, for lack of better words, sleazier directors. Like that's something they always like.
Hmm.
They always you'll never see that type of violence against a man. You'll never see a pen or a decap like them taking off a genital in men, but you see that with women. So
I
I
don't
think
know. Did you see Leprechaun 4?
no, I did not see Leprechaun 4. Why did you see Leprechaun 4?
Because my nemesis, aka my cousin, is a criminal mastermind. And so like I was 8 years old, and in Leprechaun 4, the dude he literally emerges out of one of the soldiers' genital areas.
Jeez. Okay, I take back everything I
That's
said.
how. No. Once again, no, you're not wrong. I'm just trying to be combative for no reason.
No, no, no. But I feel like maybe I don't know. That doesn't seem like something Eli Roth would have taken out, but they do show it in the trailer. So I remember watching it in the theater and being
Mhm.
like, "Oh my god, here this is coming!" And that's not how she dies. She just gets stabbed multiple times on the trampoline.
Mhm.
And I think I like that kill a little bit more than you did, just because I've been on trampolines before, and I know that once you're jumping, you can't stop. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
That there was nothing she could have done. She's getting stabbed multiple times. So yeah.
Mhm.
I agree with the
Like I
first.
said, I think it was a cool kill. I think I've just seen it before. I feel like I've seen it before,
Mm,
so it's just like it didn't really like hit as if it was the first time.
no, I agree. Okay.
But yeah, so because of these two murders, the football game between like Hanover and wherever they're from, I guess Plymouth or whatever. Anyway, the football game is canceled because of the murders, and like Evan feels some type of way about it, so he storms off like because he he still wants to play. So Gabby goes to kind of calm him down. Um, and then we meet Yulia's father, who's like we've seen the aggressively Boston accents, now the aggressively Russian one, and like, and what happens? What happens? What
He's
happens?
like,
The
hey, get in the Mercedes. He's like, we're going through Florida.
But yeah, so now Yulia is leaving because of the fact that like now no more people have been murdered, and like they know that they're kind of this friend group is being targeted, and so like Yulia leaves, Gabby and Evan come back, and she's able to calm him down, and so he goes to change, and I was like, oh yeah, we'll all leave together, because it's like at least they're trying to stay somewhat together, realizing that they are the targets of these attacks, and so Evan and Gabby go to the locker room. He changes, and then when they're coming back, he notices that there's like a laundry or a garbage bin or some shit like that in the middle of the hallway, and he says that's weird. And then immediately they just get ambushed by John Carter. And I told you before, bro, this is the one jump scare that got me because I didn't see it. Like normally, if I see something coming, I'm like closing my eyes a bit or like covering. I didn't have time to do that shit. This jump scare came out of fucking nowhere. I told you I did not scream, but I did. I was a little warm. Like,
well, remember I told you about the couple that dropped their popcorn and their soda?
Yeah.
This was the jump scare. And I feel like, I mean, I know Ed kind of countered this when we talked about it the last time, but like I feel like this was the one jump scare that honestly, personally, the only jump scare I felt that was like a real jump scare. The rest I kind of thought were pretty cheap. I did jump at this as well. So yeah.
I think it was so abrupt because obviously they were leading to like it's very much like you're looking here and then here they come on the screen type of thing. It was just so abrupt.
Right.
That's what got me. Which obviously it's a horror movie, so like thankfully like there it's very effective. But yeah, so he captures Gabby and Evan, and then Jessica, who's waiting for them in the lobby of the school, like she gets a text from Gabby that says, "Can you come here?" So like she starts walking away from like the cops that are right outside the high school, and as she walking towards wherever the locker room is, and she texts just a question mark to Gabby. She was like, "Where the fuck are you?" or whatever, and she hears the chime for the notification on her phone, and she goes exactly where the bin was that Gabby and Evan had seen earlier, and she sees that the phone is inside the bin. And this is another thing that fucked with me because I assumed that their bodies were going to be just like in there in some gruesome type of way, like. So it was, I guess, nice. It was a nice change, but I just assumed the worst, like of her going to find them. And then as she's looking for them, she gets attacked. So she holds up Gabby's phone or whatever, and in the reflection, she sees like John Carver about to like swing an axe at her head, and like so she's able to narrowly dodge it, and then like she runs away. She gets away from him. She goes into like and they were in this room prior because like when they found out that Ryan was linked to the security guard, it's like this beauty salon. I guess like it's a salon type of class or something like that. And so like she goes to that room. John Carver follows her in there. And like she's hide. Oh my god, because there's a bunch of mannequin heads because clearly they're doing hair and stuff like that. And so she hides by the table with all the mannequin heads, and I was just like, you know how you get your head chopped off, dumb it? If you hide within a bunch of
with a bunch, you put your head with other heads.
It was just like it was one of those things. That's like, see, this is the stupid shit I can't get with. I'm like, get her, bro. Just get her. Come on, wrap this shit up.
Right. Right. It's just bad decisions. But, I mean, like, I just back to that again. I don't think you can't even rationalize it. Okay, well, when this is what Ed tried to do last time. He's like, well, she's thinking that she won't be seen on the other heads. It's just bad decision making. I would have hid in plain sight before I would have put my head up there with the other heads.
Bro, I would have kept running. When I tell you, no fucking horror movie villain would catch me because I'd still be running. Okay, you would just see a dot on a map and me just running, and then like you would see water and me still running. Like I don't know what y'all. This is the craziest thing when she had nothing but open hallways, and she was like, "Let me hide in a room."
Let me just hide. No, I'm out. Forrest Gump again.
I'm gonna let you catch up. Exactly. I was running.
I wasn't running.
But anyway, so she, even though like he spots her because I think she makes a sound when she tries to grab a pair of scissors while she's hiding. She like sprays something in his eyes, and she runs out. She gets help from the cops, but they aren't able to find both Gabby or Evan or John Carver. And so because of this, Scuba and her decide, okay, we need to protect ourselves. So like, there's a guy who's throwing a party. He's like, damn, I still can't remember his fucking name. But he's like kind of that like the loser in town who like never grew up.
Yeah.
Definitely peaked in high school. So he's throwing a party for a bunch of high schoolers, and his dad is a he sells like guns and stuff like that. So like he was like, I don't sell guns to kids, but I do sell alcohol. So whatever. So he's having a party, and so they go to his house to get a weapon or whatever. And so this was, we talked about this before. It was like he kept showing off guns like randomly hidden in his room.
Right.
And Scuba just goes, "Do you have any human-sized guns, man?" Because he just kept giving him guns that would take down the predator. Like, do
Hey,
you
nigga,
have a gun for a human man, please?
we're not bear hunting. Like, I just need I need a handgun. Thanks.
And so he gives him the gun. They're driving, and this whole time he's like, Scuba's on FaceTime with Julia because like she's packing up so they can go to Florida. And we bounce to her house, and we see her dad is like calling her downstairs. He has like a cop there, like looking over, watching, over them to just make sure they're safe. And as soon as he passes the dad or whatever, he says, when are the renovations going to be done? And because we see that their house is basically clearly a front for something, like they don't really live there. Because the cop goes, when will the reservation, when will the renovations be done? And dad just says never and walks away. And so as soon as he walks away, the police guy gets shot with a tranquilizer dart, and we see that John Carver is at the house. And then he also, the dad comes back downstairs and sees the guy pass out on the floor, and he also gets shot with a tranquilizer dart. So we're seeing that John Carver is very much, he's meticulous in all this. He's not harming anybody that wasn't involved in the massacre.
Right.
So there's clearly a motive. And so like we jump back upstairs, and we see, this is where you're talking about the subversion of expectations, where like Yulia is she's getting ready. So we see her like putting in what is it, contacts or something like that. And like you said, like you would in any other horror movie, something's about to happen to her eye, and you mentioned like Hostel and stuff like that.
Right.
And it was just like, it was one of those things where I'm just like, oh god, what what's gonna happen? But also, I think this was like talking about, I need to stop watching trailers of movies. This part was in the trailer, so I knew what was gonna happen. So it also did, I guess, help me in a way where it's just like I wasn't as afraid of what was gonna happen, even though what happened to her is terrible, but it wasn't anything to do with the eyes like you expected.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, he as she's on FaceTime with Scuba and Jessica, they see that John Carver has attacked her or whatever. So they race over. Now that they have the gun, they race over. They see that the dad and the cop are passed out. They go upstairs, and now you see that John Carver. Oh no! So first,
the corn scene.
So first,
what do you call
yeah.
those
So
things?
first, he takes it's like the corn holders or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But first, John Carver like stabs her in the ears with it, so like she's like she can't hear, and then like she starts crawling away, and like this is where you see Scuba and Jess racing to the house, and once they get there, we see that John Carver has Yulia at knife point, like somewhere upstairs in an attic. There's a bunch of like open beams and stuff like that. Like it's not, the top of the house is not not finished, and so he has her at gunpoint, and she's like, he's like, let her go, like I don't know what to do, and fucking I knew this terrible part was coming. But John Carver pushes Yulia onto like a bandsaw, and like she just gets gutted, and like he's able to escape. And like this is, we were talking about this, so like it's interesting, like usually horror movies, like it's outside of the accents, the acting was like really good. So it's just like in that moment, like Julia's dead because like she's been gutted by the saw, and Scuba's like holding her, and he was like, what do I do? And it was
Yes.
a very like human reaction to like this traumatic thing that's happened.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't hate the acting here. I feel like there would definitely be some element of shock there. You'd be like, what do we do?
Yeah.
What do we do?"
Mm.
Yeah, so and I think some of these actors are like, I don't know if you talked about in the beginning, but there's some I think Addison Rae, she's like a TikTok star.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
what usually when you get those, those social media actors, you kind of expect some, realm of mediocrity, for lack of better words. But I didn't feel that. I
Yeah.
feel like everyone was, they did their part and they were pretty good. So, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, outside of the accents for some of these people, like the acting from the main cast was like really good.
Mhm.
But yeah, so now Yulia's dead, John Carver's still on the loose. We see that they're having a meeting at Rick's house, or like Jessica's house, sorry, and talking about what they're gonna do. So like her dad has decided to, because they mentioned earlier that he just refused to shut down the sale, and now he's like, okay, after this, I'm shutting down the sale. We're not doing the Thanksgiving Day parade. Like we need to be, now that we're finally accepting the fact that this is happening to us or whatever.
Wait, I'm
And
sorry.
so
You want to go back for 1 second because I'm pondering this now. You talked about earlier how John Carpenter is meticulous with his kills and only killing people that are responsible. What did Yulia do?
I think he just blames her. Like, so anybody that was in the store before the riot, I think that's what it is. Because it was just like, if you heard the football player that was outside from Hanover goes, how come they're allowed inside and we're not? And it
Okay.
was like, I think just seeing those people inside incited them to want to like go in. So I think that's just what it is.
Okay. That makes
Like,
sense.
yeah, you're right. I don't think her, Scuba, or even like Gabby, outside of Evan filming it and Jessica being the hookup to get inside the store, I don't think any of them really did anything outside of just being
Right.
there. If to answer your question.
Okay. All right. Anyway, keep going.
But yeah, so yeah, her dad is just like, we need to, and to not provoke him, we need to shut down the sale, not do the parade. But Jessica, for some fucking reason, on some final girl shit, I guess, is like, no, we need to, we need to draw him out, right? We need to get him to think that we're alone. So like they're gonna attend the parade, and then once they assume that he's gonna try to attack them at the depot where they're housing all of the parade floats, and like he'll think that it'll be empty, but actually it'll be filled with cops, or whatever. So this is their plan, and I'm just sitting here like, oh my god, you came up with this in 10 minutes. How long do you think he's been fucking planning? You're gonna outsmart, like, okay, fine, cool, whatever. Movie got a movie, I guess.
Right.
So now it's Jess, Scuba, her stepmom, her dad are gonna be on the float or whatever to kind of draw out John Carver. And there's another thing talking about the red herring. So like, I think Ryan, because he wasn't much in it. I think once they realized it was like, well, excuse me, once Eli realized that these red herrings weren't really going anywhere, I think like the boyfriends very much kind of took a back seat to everything, because you don't see much of Ryan, you don't see much of Bobby
Mhm.
in the later portions of the film. And so, but we do see this scene where like Ryan is wearing the pilgrim hat and the all black, and he's trying to call Jessica, and you would assume that, they're pointing the finger at him. But then we just see that he's helping out with the Thanksgiving parade floats. Bobby visits him, kind of trying to accuse him of certain things, and it was like it is this kind of back and forth between all these two possible, murderers.
Right.
But it's very much like played down, because I think even the audience is like, they're not. It's too obvious in a way, right?
And I also think that, like,
But
think
yeah,
about
so
historically, like,
they go to the
sorry, think about like historically in all these slashers,
no, no, yeah,
it's often the boyfriend. Like in
yeah. We
Scream.
just did that with us with Scream. So
So I think maybe maybe it might, I don't know, the writing process. Maybe they started off with the idea of, oh, it's the boyfriend, and maybe like changed halfway through. I'm not sure, but yeah, I agree. It just
mm.
kind of falls off.
Well, because of Scream in general, you're right. It's been done a lot. Like the first Scream did it, the fourth Scream did like. It's just like they did it so much, like within their own franchise. It's like, Jesus Christ, can y'all stop being in love with people?
Right.
Just be an island, my nigga. What you doing? But yeah, so they tried it with the whole boyfriend angle, but I think even they kind of gave up towards the end of the movie. Actually, towards the middle of the movie, because you don't see much of Ryan or Bobby
Right.
until the latter portion of the closing, parts of the film. But anyway, so her family and Scuba are at the are getting on the float or whatever. The guy who gave them the gun gives her a ring because he had mentioned that they sell guns, but they also sell tactical things too, right? And so he gives her a ring that was his dad's when he was like in Iraq or something like that. And so they go to the parade, and because it's first we see Mitch don the mask. We haven't seen him since the beginning of the film, right? He was a possible suspect, but like you said, I think his build was a little bit different. He had all the motivations, but once again, if you're looking at the evidence we have, it's not pointing towards any of the people that they're suggesting.
Mm-hmm.
And so Mitch dons the John Carver mask and then joins the parade or whatever with everybody else. And as Jessica's on this float, she does see that there's several guys with the John Carver mask. And I'm just thinking, yeah, are you scared up there, dummy? Because you literally you're fucking sitting target in the middle of the fucking town, and you did this. Like nobody asked you to sacrifice yourself.
Like this was your plan,
But yeah,
girl.
so like. And immediately she's like, I did not think this through. You think? Because you came up within 5 minutes. This man's been planning it for a fucking year. But you got him, I guess. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
God. Dum-dums are going to dum-dum. It's frustrating. But yeah, so then, Jesus fucking Christ. So like there's several dudes she sees with the John Carver mask. Mitch and a few protesters kind of jump in front of the the float to kind of protest the Thomas and his family, and they immediately get him the fuck out of there. And then they continue driving, and as they start, we just see a guy in a fucking clown mask and costume just behead a kid wearing a turkey costume, right? And all hell breaks loose. We see that he's like throwing like smoke bombs everywhere so nobody can see anything. Like the way that the float that they're on was like parked. It had like I guess the bow of the ship goes through the back of the back of the truck and like pierces this old man's head while his granddaughters are sitting there with him,
Yeah.
which is very much like Final Destination. Talk about the homages. We haven't talked about it in a minute, but it was just like the Final Destination 2.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so just chaos ensues. What's her name? Jess and her family like race to the deputy's car or whatever, because even they tried to like point at him early on that he was the possible like the killer.
Yeah.
But they go to his truck, and right as he's about to get in, he gets tranquil. Oh, sorry. Is it tased or tranquilized or whatever?
Yeah.
And then the clown jumps in the car and tranquilizes all four, like Jessica, Scuba, her stepmom, and her dad, and he just drives off. And then now there's a manhunt to try to find them. And then fucking Jessica's stepmom wakes up, and this is where they got the fucking disgusting. But she wakes up on a table. She's being prepared. It clearly as like the Thanksgiving turkey, right? Mm-hmm. And so like she pretends like she's still asleep, and the John Carver goes to the next room to turn on the oven, and when he comes back, she's gone. And like, so, excuse me, she's hiding in this basement or whatever. And then like she's able to escape upstairs. Like she's able to trap him downstairs for a bit. She goes to the fucking. So the windows are boarded, so she can't like take those down. For some reason, she goes to the fucking fridge, and she sees that the cheerleaders in there still alive.
Well, that's
And then like John Carver makes his way up.
What would possibly be in the fridge? Like I was trying to rationalize that decision, but what in the fuck could possibly be in the fridge? What were you doing? Are you hungry? You wanted a snack? Bitch, get the fuck out the house. You like.
And that's what's frustrating because you see, like, all right, so John Carver comes up from the basement. She hides on a wall or whatever, like, and like so he kind of attacks her with a pitchfork, and then she just runs out the front door. So that means she saw it the whole fucking time.
Right.
It wasn't like she entered another room and it was like the house opened up. It was like stupid as shit. So anyway, like so she tries to escape the house. He throws a pitchfork directly at her back and then drags her back inside. And then next thing you know, we just see her in the oven, and then like so she's pleading for her life. He opens it up and like she's like, please, please, like, and then he just like sticks a thermometer in her arm and then closes it, and then we get a scene of like her basically being cooked alive, which was gruesome, but like we said earlier with the gore, it wasn't as bad as I thought Eli was gonna do.
Oh, no, I
Right?
agree, because this could have
Which
been, like, she would have been writhing in pain, she would have been shaking in pain, like, this
yeah.
could have been, a lot more, visceral and graphic, and it wasn't. So you get the beginning when she gets put in, you get the end, and that's it. So, another surprising thing
Mhm.
he did.
And then I guess a bit of comedy,
Yeah.
but it was just like once you finally stop screaming and she goes still, you just see the thermometer pop, basically saying that she's done. Um, but yeah, so then there's like a there's a manhunt. We see that Jessica and all her friends are placed around the same table. We saw the waitress and the security guard prior. So like Evan and Gabby are still alive. Scuba and Jessica are tied up at the table. We see that her mama, her stepmama, her dad is sitting at the head of the table. We also see that the football player and his cheerleader girlfriend they're all sitting around the table. And there's I guess a live feed on Instagram from John Carver's story. So like the police are trying to track the location of this to try to rescue Jessica and her family. And so they go to like trace it to somewhere. They go to the location and realize it's not above ground, but it's possibly like in the tunnels somewhere. So like everybody kind of scatters. They find that wherever the location that they have found was just like it was being recorded there, but not actually like none of the actual people were there. And so like we finally get John Carver coming in, and I'm like, for me, as somebody who loves a complete story and wanting to see like the reasoning why, I'm like, thank God we're finally gonna get the the backstory to all this. Who the fuck are you? And so like he drags on for a bit. First he uncovers the bird because there was a sheet over it, and we just see that it's the stepmom. Like her hands are tied, she's like been decapitated, and he also takes the sheet off, and you just see her head. And like I think is this the part where Thomas throws up
Yeah.
or whatever?
That Eli Roth loves us throw
Yeah,
up.
so he sees he sees his wife's decapitated head, and like he throws up, but he has a gag in his mouth, so he's like kind of just throwing up back into his mouth. And I think you mentioned that this was a scene from Hostel, right?
Yeah, yes.
Or
Our
Hostel
main
Two.
in Hostel, our main character, is he's there's a gag in his mouth as well, and he's throwing up because he's, being, worked on with, surgical tools. And it's
Mm.
actually, if I remember correctly, the guy that's throwing up, I forget his name as an actor, but he is the
Rick
Rick
Hoffman.
Hoffman is also in Hostel as well, and he's the one working on
Mm.
the guy that's throwing up. So I don't know if that's meant to be
Got it.
intentional, but it's a fun little thing.
Mm. Okay. But yeah, so he shows the bird or whatever in the middle of the table. Then he goes over to Evan and he mentions he asks everybody what they're thankful for, and he's gonna start with Evan. And so he has the camera there, and he just proceeds to bash Evan's head in um, at the table. And it was funny because of the fact that like Evan was unlikable from the first fucking scene. So it was like you were waiting for this.
You're just
It's
wait,
just like
yeah,
Jesus Christ.
yeah.
Um, But yeah, so then he kills Evan, and then he goes over to the body of the cheerleader, and he mentions that that's why he had her in the freezer, because he was like keeping her chilled. And so he takes a corkscrew, like screws it into her neck a bit, and then like takes a wine glass and like has the blood dripping into the wine
Mhm.
glass and kind of sits it in front of Scuba or whatever. And then he goes to the bird, and it's a comment. He's mentioned something about like being greedy or something like that. So like he slices into Kathleen's leg, and I turned all the way away. I was like, no, we good. Like I get it. I get it. I don't need to see it. But yeah, he slices into her leg, takes the meat or whatever, puts it on a plate, and sits it in front of Thomas to be like, because you're so greedy, how about you take a bite of your wife or whatever? And so, like, right before he's about to force him to eat this, we see that the ring, what's her name? Jessica has the ring that the guy who sold them the gun had given her, and we see that it's a tactical ring. It has a little blade on it.
Mm.
So she's cutting into the ropes that have her hands, and then once her hands are free, she passes the ring to Scuba so he can get out. And so, right as her dad is about to be forced to eat the meat, from the moms, Scuba breaks out, kind of throws the chair at John Carver, and then they run out. Her dad tells her to run, and so so they run upstairs, and we see that they're actually in the John Carver house that was trashed earlier in the movie. And so, like, right as they're about to leave, we'll go out the front door or whatever. Scuba kind of gets slashed on the arm or something like that, so he falls to the ground. Jess continues running, and she makes it to like this fence. And as she's climbing over the fence, she's wearing a bracelet with a picture of her mother in it, and it kind of gets stuck on the fence for a bit. And then when we talked about this last time, it was like as she's running through the woods, there's a quick scene of like her running past like some type of flower, some shit like that. I can't remember exactly what it was. And I was just like, in the movie, I was like, why the fuck is this important? Like, this doesn't make sense. But whatever, fine. The climax of the film. We're almost there. We're almost to the end.
Right.
And so, like, just as she's about to get her head sliced, because John Carver like kind of chops down at her on the fence, she's able to release her arm. She keeps running, and she gets back to, I guess, the kind of the same neighborhood where the warehouse is, where the parade floats were, and she sees that the sheriff has been knocked out outside of his car. She kind of wakes him up, and she sees that the person who knocked him out was like uh, John Carver, and like he goes into the warehouse, and she sees that the guy finally takes the mask off, and it's Bobby. And even then, it was just like, no, it's not. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
I know what you're trying to do, but like this, you didn't land this one, my G. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not that dumb.
We've been here, we
And
know. As soon as
so,
I
sorry,
saw
go
it, I
ahead.
was like, "Yeah, it's not him, but thanks." Like
Mhm. But yeah, so the sheriff goes in, he fires off a few shots, and then comes back outside and says, she's like, "Did you get him?" He was like, "I don't know." What do you mean you don't know? You emptied a full
you're a
clip. What
cop!
the
Like
fuck is going on? But so now we get the other cops at the warehouse, and now there's a manhunt for Bobby. They realize that they have him booked as the killer. And so the deputy takes the sheriff's gun because he mentions that you fired it, you fired it in the line of duty. So now we need to take the gun for reports and stuff like that. So he gives away his gun, and they all leave. They're going to meet at the hospital because they found out that all of the survivors, so her dad, Scuba, and Gabby, um, are at the hospital being treated. So like they're going to go there to see them. But Jessica, Jessica's going to arrive with the sheriff, and she says she just needs a minute, right? So then um, the sheriff like gives her a minute. She's sitting there, and there's like all the evidence that they've gathered. So there's like a phone and a few other things. And as she's sitting there, she's like backtracking to some of the scenes early in the movie where with the sheriff saying like, "I couldn't have done this without you. If there's anything you can think of, like, you don't know who you can trust." Like just several subtle things that he had said earlier, and then it flashes back to the to whatever fucking foliage that that she ran past early, like
right.
literally 5 minutes
I
prior,
don't feel like this is enough.
and it was just like, yeah, that's what it. It wasn't earned, and I think we talked about this earlier with because I really love a mystery movie, like a detective noir or something like that, or like a murder mystery type of thing,
Mhm.
because I'm very interested. One, I just love a puzzle, and then two, I enjoy like following along with the detective as he's finding clues and things like that, because I feel like I'm his deputy in this.
Mhm.
But there was a movie, I think it was the Pale Blue Eye or something like that, where like they just exposited what would happen at the end of the movie rather than you being along to find those. And it was like, that's not as fun.
No.
You telling me versus me actually being there with you, discovering these clues. is a lot different. So I think that's like you were saying. I think this wasn't earned as the finding out who the killer was.
Right, like, think about classic horrors
Um,
like Sixth Sense, like, when they at the end of the movie, when they go back and they show you all of the like, like, Saw's a perfect example too, not all of them, but Saw 1 and Saw 2, you could have figured it out if you were, paying
mhm.
really close attention. Similar with The Sixth Sense. I
Yeah,
know people that say they knew that he was dead at the end, like, you could have figured it out. There's no way from these little, "Hey, thanks for all your help." That's not a big enough
yeah,
sign to be like, "Oh, yeah, it's definitely him." So I feel like it's not earned at all.
mhm.
If you're following along, you can't really figure out the mystery here. So I think they just kinda threw that in at the end, and that's
Yeah,
another reason why I gave my rating to this movie.
yeah. And so yeah, so like she kind of figures out that he's because he has like as he was walking out, she saw that he had like some stains on his boots that was very similar to the whatever foliage they zoomed in. And I feel like she didn't zoom into that shit. The the director did for the audience.
Right.
So it's like it didn't make sense. It would be different if like she fell in front of it and then like got up and then kept running.
Mhm.
Like so you see her actually pay attention to it. But anyway, so now she figures out that it's the sheriff. He comes back in and he's about to I think he turns away at some point and then he realizes that she realizes who like he's the one that did it. So he goes, he closes the door and he no, first he says, if you would have been on that fence just a few more seconds, this could have been all over. And then he goes and closes the door, and then this is where you finally, for me, finally I get to the why. It's only been an hour and some change, but yeah. So then he goes. Then you go to find out that he was having an affair with Amanda, and like she was going to leave Mitch because she had gotten pregnant with his child. So like he not only lost his lover, but he also lost his child when Amanda was killed. And so he had been planning his revenge the whole time, but because of the fact that there was no security footage, he couldn't point out who was responsible.
Right.
So it was just like that's why once the flashbacks, it was like I couldn't do this without your help because of the fact that she got him security footage he needed to fully enact his revenge. And so he's obviously finally giving you as the reason why. And it was like I think you mentioned before, like you could kind of see it because in her death scene when Mitch is like crying over her body, they do linger on the sheriff
Yeah.
for a bit.
Mhm.
So that's not really helping it. And also we talked about this before. It was just like he's the most famous person in the cast
Yeah.
outside of like Gina Gershon, and she gets killed. So unless she's coming back for her revenge, clearly it's like this.
Yeah.
Like it's this person. It was the same. Honestly, we talking about Scream. It was like that's how like Scream kind of wasn't as good as it could have been because of the fact that like yeah, it's this clearly it's. I mean, granted, he wasn't the most famous person in the cast because of like you have homegirl Gail who's been a staple
Right.
in the or even Gail and Kirby and stuff like that. But it was like yeah, obviously you're not just bringing this dude in to bring
Just to
him
bring
in.
him in, like, he's probably
Like
gonna be a killer. Yeah.
yeah. So it's just like the same thing with like Patrick Dempsey in this one. It was just like, all right, I'll follow the little punk ass red herrings, but we know.
We know who it is. Just like Law& and Order, like the most famous person that the guest star in Law& and Order is probably gonna be the killer. We know.
Yeah, yeah. It's like- but yeah, so yeah, so we finally get his reasoning behind everything, and as he's about to kill Jessica, she goes, "Wait, you never asked me what I was thankful for," because that's what he had asked Evan before he killed him, and she goes, "What?" And he was, "I'm thankful for the Wi-Fi or the service in this building, because we see that she's been recording his whole confession."
Mhm.
And then he just goes berserk because he's like, "I mean, if even if I'm being found out, I'm gonna kill this person." Because he truly blamed Jessica for Amanda for the riot,
Right.
because if she hadn't let her friends in, then it wouldn't have incited any of it. So like he really puts the blame on her shoulders. So he goes to try to kill her, but luckily Bobby comes out of nowhere and like throws something, a rock or some shit through that window that was there. And then the sheriff is knocked out again because he said that's what he was saying. He was just like he had captured Bobby, drugged him up, put him in the John Carver costume, and was just gonna to frame him. But then because it took too long or something took too long, Bobby woke up and attacked him. That's why we found him knocked out right before all of this. And so Bobby comes back, saves saves Jessica, and they go to run away. And this is what you say. So first, they're running through this warehouse, and there's this there's like clothes and stuff like that. They hide, and then able to distract the sheriff for a bit, and then they get to a gate, and they act as if they're trapped. They don't try to climb it. They just literally just start shaking the gate. And then you can see to the right of them, it's open, like the gate is open. It doesn't even go full down the wall. And it was just like, you know what? That's enough stupidity for me. Like
I'm ready for this.
I held my tongue for as long as
Yep. Where's the credits?
But yeah, so they notice that Bobby's uncle's truck is there, so they get to the truck. As they're running away, Jessica turns on one of the propane tanks or some shit like that, and it starts filling up one of the Thanksgiving parade of I guess a float or some shit, no, or like a mascot. It was like this turkey mascot. And so like she's not able to get into the truck because like the truck is parked very close to a pole. So like she gets on the back of the truck, and the sheriff hops on, and he's trying to attack her, but she is able to defend herself with this musket that was on the back of the truck. And she mentioned earlier that the only gun she knew how to use was a musket because her dad like kind of forced her for like some sale when she was a kid to load it and fire it, load it and fire it. So like she does know how to use this musket. So she protects herself with a musket. The sheriff falls off. They go to drive away, but he wraps this wire that's connected to the truck around a pole, so they're kind of stuck. And this is where we get he realizes they're stuck, and this is where we finally get the tagline. This is what we were saying. It was just like, I'm pretty sure they forgot about this shit until everything wrapped. But the sheriff just goes, seeing that they're trapped and they can't go anywhere. He goes, "There will be no leftovers." And I was just like, okay, check, please. Can we go? Have I not suffered enough, sir? But yeah, so he starts walking towards them with the axe or whatever, and what's her name? Jessica loads the musket with gunpowder and then her mom's bracelet. And I thought, we talked about this before, I thought this could have been interesting if it was one of those things where like she refused to let her. I mean, obviously your mom, so you're grieving.
Right.
But if it was just like it was sentimental to the fact that like she refused to let her mother go until this moment, you know. But once again, that's a little small thing. But it's because of the fact that I watched so many movies, seen so many stories being told. I would assume that was something that could have been possibly symbolized in this
Which
moment,
would have
but
made it a better
not so much.
movie. Like they're just so they just I don't know, they just don't see those opportunities, or they think that they have explained it enough, or they think that like, okay, well we know she has this attachment to the bracelet, so it's just I don't know. It just seems cheap and not effective.
Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, she fires the gun at the propane tank. It explodes right behind the sheriff. So he gets just doused in flames. You hear him screaming. The truck is released. They drive off. And then we get the cops, the cops there, the ambulance is there. She has kind of says goodbye to Bobby. Ryan comes, gives her a hug, and then like one of the firefighters comes over and says that basically there's no way somebody could survive that. Like that's such a horror movie, fucking horror movie thing.
Yeah.
It's like there's nobody who could survive that burn. He's gone or whatever. And then we jump to her in bed that night with Ryan. She's asleep, but she kind of hears something in the night, so she goes to the closet, turns the light on, but there's nothing there. And then like she turns her back, and we just see the closet erupt in flames, and like the sheriff kind of grab her, and then she wakes up.
Yeah.
And it was kind of this last like jump scare before the credits roll. Um, and that's basically
And
it.
that's the movie.
I don't know if the was there any post credits. I don't think so,
No,
but
I stayed and
but yeah,
there wasn't. No post credit scenes.
okay,
So
good.
yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, so at the end of every episode, we kind of review, like go over our initial reviews to see if we changed our mind after talking about it. So I gave it a 2. I'm going to stick with a 2.
Hmm.
But like I said, take my review with a grain of salt. It did scare me at times, but I was expecting a little bit more and something a little bit different. Like we mentioned just now, I feel like they missed a lot of opportunities with this movie. But well, how are you feeling, Shae? You want to stick with your 2.5 or
Yeah, so when we first the last time we did this, I started out at 2.5 and I went up to a 3, and I started at 2.5 with this episode, and I'm gonna stay at 2.5, I think, because I think the last time you start to laugh at more, and you kind of get what they're trying to put down, but this time I just kind of feel still pretty cold on it. So not even cold. I mean, it was fine.
Mhm.
It was fine. It's a fun slasher.
Yeah.
So you have to know what you're going into it. You can't go into expecting this to be a great
Yeah.
horror movie. It's fun. Leave it at that. I'm sticking with 2.5.
Mhm. This is why I feel like they need to start doing better with trailers because, like I said, I went in with a different mindset. So, like, I'm already on a different, like, in a different, like, feeling a different way about this movie, right? So, it's just like it took me a minute to get adjusted. And I kind of blame that on the trailer.
Right.
But anyway, that's that's the episode. If you want to reach out to us, we are at two meddling kids at Gmail. We're also two meddling kids on Instagram and what is it? Instagram and TikTok. Shae, how can they reach out to you?
My personal Instagram is at Shae Rudolph, and then I also have an Instagram page with my significant other, and that is Mike underscore and underscore Shae. We put up somewhat funny reels and shit, so go check that shit out.
Okay. If you want to reach out to Ed, he is Ed Hunt77 on Instagram, and his comics account is hunt.comics on Instagram, so you can check that out. If you want to reach out to me, I am Days from Legendary on Instagram. Um, and that's it. Thank you for thank you for listening to
It's
us.
been fun.
We'll be back next week with a new episode.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Bye.
Funky dope. Yeah.